Welcome to my channel.
There was once an old woman who had 3 daughters. The eldest daughter had 3 eyes, so she was called three-eyed. The youngest daughter had 1 eye, so she was called one-eyed. The middle daughter had 2 eyes, so she was called two-eyed. Three-eyed was beautiful and one-eyed was very clever, but two-eyed was ugly and not very clever at all. She was, however, very hardworking. Her sisters hated her because she had 2 eyes like normal people, and her mother hated her because she was not special like her sisters. One day, the mother decided it was time for her daughters to get married. Three-eyed will marry a rich businessman since she is so beautiful. One-eyed will marry an academic since she is so clever. And who will I marry, mother? Asked Two-eyed. Stupid girl, she cried. You will not marry anyone. You will stay at home and look after your dear mother. So the old woman prepared her eldest and youngest daughters for marriage. She painted a second eye onto One-eyed's face so that it looked like she had 2 eyes. Then she took some horsehair and made a fringe to put on Three-eyed head so that her 3rd eye could not be seen. There, she said, now who wouldn't want to marry you? A few days later, a man came round looking for a wife. Come in, said the old woman. Perhaps you would like to marry my eldest daughter who is very pretty. The man looked at Three-eyed and said, I think not. Well, perhaps you would prefer my youngest daughter. She is very clever. The man saw One-eyed and said, she is not my type. Where is the middle daughter? Oh no, she's ugly and stupid. You do not want to marry her. Two-eyed was hiding in the next room. She had seen the man through the window and he was very handsome. So she walked into the room and smiled at him. This is the daughter I want to marry. No, said the mother. She does not want to get married. But mother, goodbye. And the old woman pushed the man out of the door and shut it. Suddenly, the old woman, Three-eyed and One-eyed, all turned on Two-eyed. You think you're so clever, don't you? Said the mother. You cannot get married. I already told you. Ugly girl, said Three-eyed. Stupid girl, said One-eyed. Two-eyed started crying and ran upstairs to her bed. The mother and the 2 favorite daughters thought about what to do. They needed to make sure no man wanted to marry Two-eyed. I have an idea, said the mother. We will give her less food and make her work hard in the fields. She will be hungry and sad. She will get thin and her skin will go hard. Nobody will want to marry her. So early the next day, Three-eyed and One-eyed pulled Two-eyed out of bed and told her she had to work in the fields. What about breakfast? She asked. No breakfast for you, lazy, said Three-eyed. So the girl went to the field and started working. She watched the sunrise as she did so. It was a beautiful day and she did not mind working hard because her lunch would taste much better afterwards. A few hours later, a goat came up to her. Me, good day Two-eyed. How do you know my name? The girl asked. And, oh, how can you talk? I am no ordinary goat just as you are no ordinary girl. Oh, but I am ordinary. I am not beautiful like my older sister and I am not clever like my younger sister and I only have 2 eyes just like you and everyone else. Oh, you are special. You just do not know it yet, but that is not important. You must be hungry. Yes, I am quite hungry, but when I finish working, we will have lunch. I am sure. The goat shook his head. They will only give you 1/3 of the food they eat. They made a plan last night. They will give you less and less food so that you get thinner and thinner. Oh, said the girl, but do not worry. As I said, I am no ordinary goat. Say these magic words and I will help you. Little goat, it's time to eat. When you are done, say, little goat, it's time to go. So the girl said, little goat, it's time to eat. Suddenly, the goat started changing. It grew long and square and turned into a big white table. And on the table were all kinds of food, bread, cheeses, jams, pickles, tomatoes, olives, and so on and so on. The girl was really quite hungry from the work, So she ate lots and lots of food. And when she was done, she said, little goat, it's time to go." The table turned back into a goat and smiled at her. "See you tomorrow, Two Eyed," he said, and ran off into the distance. When Two Eyed finished her work and came home, lunch was already made. There was bread and cheese and olives, but the food did not look nearly as nice as the food the goat had given her. "I suppose you want to eat," said the mother. "No, thank you," said Two Eyed. "I ate plenty of food yesterday for several days." The mother and her two favorite daughters sent Two Eyed into the fields to work, and she ate food from the goat's table and none at home. This made the three mean women think, and finally the mother said, "Enough. Tomorrow, One-Eyed, you will go with your sister into the field and find out what is happening. I am sure she is stealing that food from somewhere." So the next day, One-Eyed went with Two-Eyed to the fields, but the older sister did not want to work with Two-Eyed. So they sat down together and watched the sky. "Sister, put your head in my lap," said Two-Eyed. "I will sing you a song." So One-Eyed put her head in her lap and Two-Eyed started to sing, "Sister, sister, are you asleep or are you awake? Tell me, tell me." "I am awake," said One-Eyed. "Sister, sister, are you asleep or are you awake? Tell me, I am awake," said One-Eyed. Two-Eyed continued to sing and her voice went quieter and quieter until finally one eye's sight closed and she fell asleep, and she did not answer the song. Then Two-Eyed carefully got up and went and found the goat. Little goat, it's time to eat." The goat turned into a table and the girl ate and ate while her sister slept and slept. Then she said, little goat, it's time to go." The goat went away, and Two-Eyed went and woke up her sister. "Come on, sister, it is time to go home." "Oh," said One-Eyed, "did I sleep for that long?" That evening, their mother and Three-Eyed asked One-Eyed what she saw, but the girl told them she had fallen asleep. "You stupid girl," cried her mother. "But I did see one thing," One-Eyed said. "When she woke me up, she had some cheese on her mouth," said the mother. "Tomorrow, Three-Eyed, you will go with her to the fields, and you must be more careful than your sister." So the next day, Two-Eyed and Three-Eyed went to the fields. "Sister, let me put my head in your lap," said Three-Eyed. So they sat down, and Three-Eyed put her head in Two-Eyed's lap. "Sister, sing me a song." So Two-Eyed sang her song, "Sister, sister, are you asleep or are you awake? Tell me, I am awake," said Three-Eyed. "Sister, sister, are you asleep or are you awake? Tell me, I am awake," said Three-Eyed. Two-Eyed continued to sing and her voice went quieter and quieter until finally Three-Eyed eyes closed and she did not answer the song. Then Two-Eyed carefully got up and went and found the goat, but Three-Eyed was not asleep. Her two lower eyes were closed, but under her fringe, her third eye was open. Carefully, she moved aside the fringe and watched what Two-Eyed was doing. Little goat, it's time to eat." Three-Eyed saw the goat turn into a table, and she saw Two-Eyed eat her meal. Then the girl said, little goat, it's time to go." That evening, Three-Eyed told her mother and sister everything that had happened. Her mother had never looked so happy before. "She is a witch," said One-Eyed. "We must tell the town and burn her." "No," said the mother. "I need someone to do the work here. I have a better idea. I think we will have goat for supper." "Yes," said Three-Eyed, "but what about the magic goat?" "You stupid girl," said the mother. "We are going to eat the magic goat." Oh, when Two-Eyed heard about this, she started crying and she cried and cried all day. Then she fell asleep in her room and had a strange dream. In the dream, she was working in the fields, but the goat did not come to her. Instead, an old man visited. "They are going to eat the goat," he said. "What can I do?" Said Two-Eyed, "After the meal is finished, take the goat's hooves and horns, plant them behind the door, but make sure that nobody sees." So that evening, the mother and her two favorite daughters ate goat curry for supper. They made Two-Eyed sit outside and watch them through the window, but the girl did not cry. After the meal was finished, One-Eyed came and threw all the bones outside. "Clean these up," she said, and went inside. Two-Eyed waited until they were in bed. Then she dug a hole in the ground and planted the hooves and horns inside. Exhausted, she went upstairs to bed. The next day, a beautiful apple tree had grown by the door, and it was no ordinary apple tree. The apples were made of gold. "Daughters, daughters," cried the mother, "it is a miracle." But when she tried to pick the apples, the branches of the tree moved away, and she could not reach them. As Three-Eyed was the tallest, she told her to pick them, but the branches moved away from her hands as well. So she got One-Eye to stand on Three-Eyed's shoulders, but the same thing happened, and they both fell down onto the ground. "It's not fair," cried One-Eyed. "Those are our golden apples." The mother looked at Two-Eyed and said, "Don't even think about picking any of these apples, or I will tell the town that you are a witch." But when they were not looking, Two-Eyed reached for the tree. The branches bent down to her, and she easily picked one of the beautiful golden apples. She hid it in her dress and went back to work. A few days later, the man from before came round again. "I am still interested in your middle daughter," he said. "Are you sure she does not want to get married?" "Yes, yes," said the mother, "but it does not matter." The horrible little girl ran away. Actually, Two-Eyed was under the bed because her mother had told her to hide there. "Oh, what a beautiful tree you have. These apples look like they are made of gold." The man thought for a moment and decided that Three-Eyed and One-Eyed might not be bad wives, but they had to be hardworking. So he decided to test them. "Would your lovely daughters be able to pick me some apples?" So the mother sent Three-Eyed and One-Eyed to the tree, but as much as they tried, they could not pick a single apple. "How funny," the man said. He did not sound happy. Two-Eyed knew she had to do something. So she waited until the man was inside again and rolled the golden apple from under the bed. The man looked down and saw it. "Oh, here is one of the apples." He picked it up, but where did it come from? "I don't know," said the mother, but she grabbed the apple out of his hand. Three-Eyed must have picked it earlier. The man looked around and saw some eyes looking out from under the bed. He went down and pulled out Two-Eyed. "Your daughter has not run away at all," he said, smiling. "Your mother says that you do not want to get married." "Is this true?" "No, no, not at all," said Two-Eyed. "I would love to marry you." "Wonderful," said the man. "Let us go and get married right now." "No, you stupid girl," shrieked the mother. "That wasn't the plan." But Two-Eyed and her new husband did not hear her and walked out of the house. They stopped in the garden. "I suppose you want me to pick you some apples," said Two-Eyed. She wanted to show him that she was hardworking. "Oh, no, not at all." He said, "You are the perfect wife. I just know it." So they went and got married and lived happily ever after. And the mother and her two favorite daughters never in their whole lives could pick an apple from the tree. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful kingdom where everyone lived in peace. The kingdom was so rich that the king decided to move the capital to the desert. He wanted to show that they were so powerful, they could tame the hot desert sands. The capital was built with bricks of bright blue and yellow, and it had a deep well at its center. From this well flowed all the water in the city, so it became a central square with painted walls and a busy marketplace. The king was proud of his city. Nowhere else in the world could you buy such nice things, see such happy children, and eat such delicious food. But one day, a dragon flew down to the city. It landed in the square and opened its mouth. The people screamed and ran away, but no fire came out of the dragon's mouth. You may think, well, what is the problem then? A dragon that cannot breathe fire is no danger. But this monster had something far worse than the hottest fire. He had horrible breath. His breath smelled so bad that anybody who came near it passed out and didn't wake up for hours or even days. So very quickly the square became empty and the dragon lay down next to the well. "Oh, king, come out and speak to me." The king was very scared, but he did as the dragon said. He held a wet towel over his face and stood very far away, but still, he almost passed out from the dragon's breath. "What do you want, O powerful dragon? I can give you gold, silver, whatever you I have no need for gold and silver," said the dragon. "What I want is food, and don't give me any of that stupid rabbit food. I want meat." The king told his men to bring the dragon 5 sheep. They did so, and the dragon ate them up one by one. Oh, their bleats filled the city that night. The king hoped that the dragon would leave after he finished, but the next day he simply burped and said, "Another one." So each day, a sheep was brought to the dragon, and when they ran out of sheep, they brought him a cow instead. While this all happened, the king tried to solve the kingdom's problems. Because the dragon's breath went into the well, nobody could drink the water that came from it, so they had to buy water from other kingdoms and transport it into the city. But when the other kingdoms heard about the dragon, they no longer wanted to come there and they charged higher prices, and soon the kingdom was running out of money too. Of course, many knights came to try and kill the dragon, but each one passed out before they could even scratch him, and the dragon happily ate them up. The king did not like this, but at least it meant that their cows lasted longer. Then one day the king found out that they had run out of cows. "There is no other option," he said. "We will hold a lottery with all the people in the capital, and the person chosen will go to the dragon." It was a horrible thing to do, but they had no other choice. The dragon grew angrier every day, and if he wasn't fed, he might use his breath to make them all pass out and then eat all of them. Nobody could leave the city either because they couldn't afford the water to make the long journey through the desert. So each day, a lottery was held, and they chose one of the people in the city to go and be eaten by the dragon. The king tried not to watch, not to listen, but he could not stop thinking about it. And at night, he could not sleep. One day, when the king saw which name had been chosen from the lottery, he almost threw up. It was his daughter, the Princess Soraya. "No," said the king, "I won't allow it." But the people had already heard about the result of the lottery and they were mad. Their husbands, their wives, their children had already been chosen and fed to the dragon. Why should the king be allowed to say no? The princess heard about this and quietly left the city to go pray. She had cried every day since the dragon came, but today she felt strangely calm. This was the right thing to do, she thought. She would show the city that they were strong. As the princess sat on the sand and prayed, a knight rode by on his horse. She thought he was coming to try and kill the dragon, so she said, "The dragon's that way," and pointed at the city. "But I wouldn't try it. None of the other knights could even scratch him. I don't think anything can kill it." "A dragon," said the knight whose name was George. He sniffed. "Ah, yes, I can smell it, but I wonder why you want to kill him." Dragons are terribly useful, difficult to tame though. But they can carry heavy things, fly you, useful. That dragon has turned our water bad, eaten our sheep, our cows, and our people. In fact, he's going to eat me today. "I am sorry," George said. "I did not realize this dragon was causing such problems, and it would be a shame if he ate such a beautiful girl. Let me go and deal with him." And before Soraya could respond, George rode into the city. She ran after him but waited outside the square. She could not hear much of what was happening, but it didn't sound like fighting. In fact, he was talking to the dragon. Could it be that this man was a monster, that he was working with the dragon? A few moments later, there was a loud thump, and then George walked out of the square whistling. "Is it dead?" said Soraya hopefully. "Oh, no," said George. "Like I said, that would be a waste. He's passed out, and I put a collar around his neck. When he wakes up, he'll do whatever I say." Soraya couldn't believe that he was serious about timing the dragon, but she was so happy that she said, "Oh, and went to kiss the knight's cheek. But when she came near George, she smelled his breath and it was awful. She passed out and landed with a thump on the ground. "Oh dear," said George. George had beaten the dragon the same way the dragon had beaten the city. He had used his bad breath. Every day George ate an onion for breakfast, garlic for lunch, and blue cheese for dinner. It was very useful for taming animals, but not so helpful for his love life. George went into the square and waited for the dragon to wake up. When he did, he roared at George, but the knight said, "Remember, I can make you pass out with one breath. See that collar around your neck? It's to make sure you're a good dragon. If you're good, I'll let you take it off." The dragon was angry and was about to bite George's head off. But then George opened his mouth and the dragon smelled the mix of onion, garlic, and blue cheesy. The dragon fell to the ground. "Fine, you have tamed me for now." George took the dragon inside the castle and told the king what had happened. The king and his men opened all the windows, stood very far away from George and his dragon, and tried to breathe as little as possible. But still they cried from how bad the two smelt. "You know, this is a beautiful city," said George. "I think I'd like to stay here if that's all right." "No, no," said the king. We're all too afraid of the dragon still. If that collar broke, what might happen? No, it's better that you leave. In fact, if you leave, I'll make you a saint." "A saint? What do you think of that boy?" George said to the dragon, who he had named Bartholomew. Said Bartholomew. George was scratching him behind the ear, which he liked very much. "All right," said George, "I accept Saint George. I like how it sounds." So the king quickly, very quickly, sainted George, and the knight left the city with his pet dragon. When the princess woke up and found out Saint George was gone, she cried. "Don't worry, my dear," said the king. "There are plenty of handsome knights for you to marry." "No, I'm not crying because I'm sad. I'm crying because I'm so happy he's gone. Father, he smelled worse than your feet." Saint George traveled with the dragon through the desert, and finally they came to a river. "Well," said George, "now that I'm a saint, I suppose I should baptize you." "Baptizer? What does that mean? Is it painful?" Saint George's laughed and pushed the dragon into the water. "There, you're Baptist." The dragon growled and pulled Saint George into the water. They played and fought for hours. Finally, Saint George explained why baptism was important. He had given the dragon a real name like a good Christian. "Now God knows that you're called Bartholomew as well." "Oh," said the dragon, "well then, you should have baptized me sooner. I went around so long with God thinking I didn't have a name. How embarrassing."